back to the I Can't Have Nice Things YouTube channel. Today we picked up a couple of these old welder generators. I have one here and one back here. We're gonna do a quick look over on them and see if we can get at least one of these to start up today. So here are the welders. We have a D Arc GX 271 chopper. I fiddle around with these knobs. Everything seems to be moving. This was a contractor's generator. They seem to have taken pretty good care of it. Let's see. Next PM 235.4 and it's at 227.3. So, you know, doesn't need a PM right now. And it even has the part numbers for your oil filters and stuff. I mean, that's kind of nice. I have never heard this one run. I have never heard it turn over. For all I know, the motor's locked up. The story is the company that had this, it was in the back of their facility. They purchased from another welding company. They bought them out and this was in the back. It did not have this propane tank adapter, and they didn't run propane powered welders themselves. All of their welders were gas powered Rangers, and this one has sat. It's been sitting for all they know at least 5 years, and it has not moved at all. So with this thing, we're gonna put a battery in it, check the oil, pop the air cleaner off, and then see if we can get this thing to turn over. Like I said, I have no idea if this motor is locked up at all. Now this one is a Hobart Champion 16. I'd say this one's quite a bit older. You can't hardly see that, but this one's quite a bit older. The indicators and all this stuff on here are just complete. It almost looks like this stuff's burnt, but I guess that's just age. All the knobs and everything move freely on this. The thing about this one is it has the Onan 2-cylinder gasoline motor on it. When I picked it up, I popped the fuel cap off on this side, and this gas is roached. It stinks really, really bad. It smells like varnish. But with ether, this motor fired up. So I know this motor on this generator is good. With a jump pack, so this one needs a battery. The battery on this one's probably 7 years old, and the battery on this one's like 10 years old. So we're gonna get some batteries. We're gonna get some tune-ups and oil changes, and we're just gonna see what we can do. I'd love to get both of them running, but at least get one of these running today. That'd be really nice. All right, first thing we're gonna do is pop this air cleaner off, see if we got anything down inside here. That's not necessarily a good thing to have that much water damage or rust on top of this air cleaner here. Hopefully that didn't run down in the carburetor. Butterfly valve seems pretty loose. That's what it looks like right now. And that air cleaner is pretty rusty. Let's move you over here. Let's check the oil real quick. It's low but clean. I will tell you that I have never personally worked on pretty much any of these propane conversion Kohlers. Basically, the extent of what I know is that we have a vaporizer down here that warms up the propane as it comes in. We have a solenoid over here to turn it on and off. and we're missing this adapter. Now I actually did pick up an adapter on the way back from grabbing these welders. So we have a way to hook it up to propane today, and we do have a propane tank over in the corner. We will go ahead and hook that up, but I think right now I'm going to go ahead and swap the battery out, make sure it turns over, and I guess we'll go ahead and hook it to propane and see what it does. All right, so we have our battery hooked up. Unfortunately, it's the right size battery, but the terminals are on the wrong side. Not only that, we're missing our positive terminal on this, so I've got some sketchy vice grips holding this on there, which I'm sure is totally safe considering this thing runs off an explosive gas, so that'll be fine. What I want to do is just see if the motor turns over real quick. Let's, fingers crossed, auto. Let's see if it'll turn over. Nice. Turned over pretty well. I guess the next step would be, I have a brass fitting I'm going to stick on here with some Teflon tape and then hook a tank to it and see if we have any fire. I'm not holding my breath. There's a reason why this thing wasn't being used, but you never know. You know, a big company might have just let this thing sit too long and they decided not to mess with it anymore. So let me stick that brass fitting on there and see what happens. All right, so we are having ourselves a bit of a welder failure today. After going through and installing this end on our line here, and then dragging over the propane tank, it turns out that these style connectors for LP tanks are not the same as a 20-pound gas grill tank. Neither is the stuff that comes out of it. If I would have done a little bit of research, which I did not, I assumed propane was propane. That is not true. This motor is made to run off liquid propane. Your forklift tanks, like industrial forklift tanks, use this special fitting here, and it actually runs liquid propane into the unit. That's what all this is all about, the regulators and the all that. So what's going on is that your industrial propane tanks for forklifts are actually expelling liquid propane into these lines, into this regulator, and this turns it from liquid to gas into the carburetor. Your 20-pound tanks that go on a gas grill use the vapor off the top of the liquid propane because the tank is sitting up. It's using the vapors on top, not the liquid propane itself. I did not know that. I thought I was going to be able to just hook it right up. You can't tell easily, but this is a regulator off of a gas grill. And it's just not the same. And so it's a bit of a fail. There's not a whole lot I can do right now with this machine. The tank that I would need to get to run this is kind of expensive. And I'm not going to do that, being that this welder is kind of older and we're not even 100% sure if it runs anyway. So with that being said, the next thing we're going to do, just to see if it's going to work, I'm going to dribble some fuel and down in this throttle body or carburetor, or whatever you would call it if it's for propane. We're going to dribble fuel down in here, a little bit of gas. We're going to turn it over and see if this motor lights off. Worst case scenario, it runs for a second and it's obviously going to die right away. But at least I'll know that once a tank is added to this and this stuff is working, the motor is in good condition. I don't even know if there's a snapped rod or something in here. I don't even know if it has no compression. I haven't checked it yet. So let's dribble a little fuel in there and see what happens. All right, so I'm gonna spray a little fuel in here, a little bit down the carburetor. Just a little bit. All right, well, it chugged a little bit. Let's see what it does with a little bit more fuel. Try it again. That was a good sign. Okay, so what we were doing was just feeding a little bit of fuel straight down the intake here, and it did start. I didn't hear any atrocious noises coming from it, and but it does stink pretty bad. I'm gonna give it a little gas. Go ahead and hit the button when you're ready. Go ahead. Try it again. Look at that. If you bottle feed it, it will run. That motor sounds good to me. So at the end of the day, it turns out that the propane setup is going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with than I anticipated. I was naive enough to think that a gas grill bottle was going to work, and that's just not the case. But we did see this thing run. The motor does run pretty well. The next step for this thing is probably to get sold. I'm going to sell this to somebody who already has the tank, who already has the equipment to get this one running, and we're going to jump on that one. Unfortunately, this week I've run out of time. I just have way too many things going on right now, and I could barely film this little thing here. But I appreciate you guys watching, and join me next week. I'm hoping to get another video out on something a little bit different.